I am Mihkel Nõges. I am quite a new member of Transferwise team, and I'm presenting to you how Transferwise is moving towards the cloud. Well, the presentation title is a little bit ambitious because moving towards the cloud is not very clear and narrow path, but has very many alternatives and options. So I'm just giving you an overview of what steps we are doing and how we see that cloud would affect us. A little bit about myself. I studied at Tartu University and actually started working also in university IT department as my first professional work in 1999, and my first task was to actually make bigger applications out of smaller applications. Like every department in university had their own small informational system, and we built out together with a partner, Fujitsu, cross-university information system. So making bigger applications out of smaller ones, or taking the idea and putting together a new application, was the main goal there. Next one, larger one, I want to mention is through Affecto. I was working in Unibet in Stockholm, where I learned agile development methodology, and we also did a lot of decoupling there of a big monolithic application using Spring into small independent services easily developed by independent teams, which was in my mind very useful experience. And last 6 years I have actually worked in Playtech, and actually 2 months ago the plan was to come to present here Playtech, but things didn't go out this way. I'm happy to say that my dear ex-colleague Daniel will present today 1:40 about Playtech and the technological challenges and solutions they have done there. We did there in our team, but I'm presenting myself here about what I have learned during the month between two jobs, while Transferwise interviewed me about my possibility to join them, and at the same time I interviewed them about what they had to offer and what are the plans. So it was a mutual research. So I will first introduce a little bit Transferwise. I will give overview of the technical platform that they are running, and about the cloud I will present what opportunities the cloud offers, what are the risks that financial business has when moving to the cloud, and what could be considered the next steps. But I would like to start with a small information gathering from you. You know a little bit about me now, but I want to ask you, okay, because you came here, I assume you have some relationship with the cloud, and I could divide this into two different categories. In my mind, maybe there are more categories, but just bear with me and try to fit yourself in one of them or both of them. You are also welcome to feel to be a part of both of these categories. First one, are you planning, or do you see in foreseeable future that you are going to build a new solution which will run in the cloud? So you will start from the empty, no application, and you start immediately building in the cloud. Or the second alternative, do you see in front of yourself a task to migrate existing traditional application running on application servers and not in cloud and not using any cloud services, and do you see that you have a chance to migrate this into cloud? So everyone who feels they belong to category A, please show your hand. And you can also have yourself look, okay, yeah, just I assume that these people maybe have planned to start a startup, or maybe they plan to just scrap their old application and write it again from scratch. These are, to me, like logical alternatives. Quite few of them here, but and please show your hand if you feel yourself to be belonging to second. Okay, this is much more prevalent group, and as myself in Transferwise, I feel the same. So there are certainly some existing cloud influences already present in our platform as well, but still, in order to say that we are fully in the cloud, there is a long way to go. About Transferwise. Transferwise, probably you have heard, was founded by two guys from Estonia, Taavet and Kristo, and they just saw that there is a lot of potential in providing cheaper service to transferring money abroad, because there are a lot of fees, and the fees are actually not very understandable how the fees are taken. Everyone says we take no fees, but actually when you see how much money you get when you transfer, you lose a lot of money. So there is a big possibility to develop new services and become very good in competition against existing legacy providers. And the goals were set to be very transparent, so that whenever you use Transferwise to transfer money, you know exactly for what you pay and how much. And we try to keep the costs down. By being global, we also should be able to earn enough doing just a lot of transfers. And certainly we want to be very trustworthy and credible. We are basically replacing a service which has so far been provided by banks or just some alternative transferring institutions. But we deal with real money, so it's very sensitive. And as usual for startups, our main goal has been to grow. And it is still our main goal, so that whatever we can do, we always focus on the main growing opportunities, and we try to do it in multiple directions. So first of all, we want to provide the best customer experience, so that we will shine compared to our competitors as a most user-friendly and easy, quick experience. And certainly our customers would be very disappointed when they try to transfer money from one country to another and we wouldn't support it. So we want to cover the full globe. So even in one country there may be already some support from Transferwise, but we still rely on our third parties, which means if they have any problems, we actually face issues, because all our customers are blaming us when things don't work. So we need to also provide multiple alternative payment methods in markets to have possibility to fail over. So about the customer experience, we also have on our website this Trustpilot review tracker, which is publicly available, and we have been able to keep our customer satisfaction very, very good. About the currencies, this is just a list of currencies that we have some support for. Some of them only support transferring money to, not from. Some support transferring money both ways, and the list is always changing, and adding more currencies to the list is constant. We have very long backlog about new big markets to be added. About the team. Our team is also very dynamic, so we try to actually structure the team based on logical parts which belong together. These have formed also our technical services, but we also have it for logical user flow parts which belong together, so that teams don't have too many dependencies between each other. We have grown during the last year from 10 to 40 developers. The overall headcount in Transferwise already reached 200, but just purely developers we have 40 now. So it's a really quick increase in numbers, which means our work processes have to change. So we have many developers. Just anyone has a guess how many people we have working in infra team? Just very good suggestions, but actually we just doubled. So we had one, now we have two. So there was a correct answer as well. Just to compare from my previous experiences, this is really low, which means the developers also practice a lot of DevOps practices. They are very aware of how things get deployed. Everything is automated, so we try to move more and more into this direction. Of course, Transferwise isn't as complex as, for instance, Playtech, where I used to work, because Transferwise has just one application basic, or one system which serves everyone. So there is no multiple different configurations working in parallel to such extent, and the complexity of the system is still quite low. So, and there are also a lot of tools available right now, which you can use to really make the system management as automated as possible. And same question about QA. Who has best guess how many dedicated QA people we have? Yeah, well, we have basically one person who is dedicated QA person, which means actually the role is just spread around between also developers, and we have product managers who are also personally responsible for understanding the full flow to such extent that they are able to test out their changes, and also developers are expected to develop also automated tests as quickly as possible for the features. Of course, it's something that I'm not fully aligned yet, because really my 4th working day is today in Transferwise, so I will probably experience more how things actually work in the future. About technical platform, at the beginning of the year we had one big application which served both customers, admins, had a database, was like a huge prototype / real application built with Groovy server pages, very rapidly developed, but it worked, and the team was quite small, so it was maintainable. But already it was obvious that things need to change in order to stay manageable. And inside the application there were already modules defined, so that there was actively going on process of separating business logic into modules which would be independent from each other. And then we had to introduce new clients to our platform, so that we created, instead of just server provided user interfaces, APIs which could be served to the richer clients like iOS, Android, and third parties as well can integrate against our platform. Like banks can create their own pages which don't use directly our user interfaces. Next, we saw that the customer part of the application actually receives much higher load than the admin, and we separated these server modules between from each other, and also started to develop new Webflow with Angular. So now all the clients can use the same APIs actually to provide the user experience, and the server side is also independently scalable to some extent. But the most recent development has been introducing microservices as separate deployables and move the modules logic out into them, so that all the application logic isn't anymore in one deployable package, but we can run each part of our system as a separate component. So just to give a sample of one of the microservices that we have is a rate service, which is able to query different currency rates from different third parties, and in case one third party is not available or there are some differences, it is able to provide still guaranteed and stable service to our customers. So just a sample how things can evolve, and so far we have mostly defined the services independent background processes, not really the services not so much talking to each other, so there is still a lot of more complexity to be added as we go forward, but because the growth of the development team still needs a lot of more separation of the system parts. The services platform conceptually defines how to develop these services. Now, it defines what technologies should be used, and to have some agreement between teams, but we don't really limit our teams to just stick to one technology or one platform, so if there can be still competition about it. In general, we consider Java virtual machine-based solutions as our standard, and we have so far developed our services using Spring Boot to package them, to provide standard monitoring capabilities for our modules. So this has been our first step, but we still have kept one shared database behind our services, so that actually services can at least read from any table in our database. They already write to certain tables which belong to this service. The contracts between services can be defined as API definitions. We don't have many APIs yet, because really services are independent background processes which just write into database, and other services discover the data from the database. So it's not so much communication between them. But we already have a couple of APIs which are exposed as client protocols or server-to-server protocols. But the idea is also to, instead of binding all the dependencies to protocols, to define also by the service a client libraries which can be used by other services. So later the protocol can be changed while the client library remains unchanged, so that you can actually improve what you pass over the wire to other service without affecting the dependency. And also we have common logic across our services, how they are packaged and deployed and monitored. So this all already to some extent touches the future cloud capabilities that we would also get if we would have started to develop for the cloud immediately from the start. Similar aspects are also provided by different cloud technologies, but they are still quite varied. And for instance, Spring as well offers some abstractions on top of all cloud providers which you can use. And like for instance, Spring Boot can deploy your application both to cloud and to traditional environment. So there are many possibilities, but we are where we are. We are not making changes just for the sake of changes. We actually evaluate our future based on real business needs and real technical issues that we face. So today's situation, we have private infrastructure. We have basically servers running owned by us, and we have virtualized the servers with VMware. The primary data center is in UK. There is a secondary one in Germany, and we replicate the data between them. So it's quite straightforward. At the same time, aside from what is running in the production, we have also our development environment, and there we use very many cloud provided tools because we don't want to manage our own IT support services, and it's proven to be very useful. So just to show a picture also about this deployment model, we have two data centers. One is active, the other is standby. We run the active load on the active operational load on the active data center, where there are number of consumer nodes which serve the end customers. There is one database and also an admin node which can be used by our internal users. And the second site data center also is used for background reporting to not load the operational data center with additional load. The opportunities that we see and probably will have to face soon is that when we open up to more and more geographical markets, we don't want to pay the penalty. Like today, when we serve our US customers from UK, there is a delay, quite noticeable delay in serving the web pages. So we want to be closer to them, and this means we need to have multiple active services running, and this is already something that cloud provides. So we could win in this lower latency when we move our application to cloud. Also, when we have multiple active regions running in parallel, we can, when one region is full because there is a midday in US and the US nodes are really heavily loaded, we can already start moving some load to UK nodes. This is a potential just load balancing opportunity. And also, we don't need to build all the infrastructure ourselves if we use already cloud existing platform. Today we have been able to do it with very small infrastructure team, so it shows that people are quite experienced and there is no such issue, but who knows, this may change. About risks and reasons why we haven't moved to cloud yet. One of them may be certainly that we don't have really good experience running things in the cloud yet. And this means we either hire someone who has done it, or we just learn by doing. And this is possible. We also don't have in the cloud full control over who is using the resources that we are given. Like I have heard many experience from other companies which have used cloud that there are still possibilities that some other customer in the cloud just is heavily loaded and it affects you, and there is nothing you can do. And what is probably the most difficult thing is, in our case, the financial regulations, meaning in order to be able to handle credit card transactions, for instance, or even some debit card transactions, we have to be PCI compliant. We already now comply to many regulations, but the further we go, the more difficult it becomes to be compliant, and the audits become really very, very complex. So the cloud platforms already moved to this direction, but it still isn't there. So we cannot rely on the cloud platform to be at the same level of compliancy as required by our regulations and partners. And it could be also price. Well, today it isn't really a big issue because the load on our system isn't very high, and we probably can use cloud as well as our existing infrastructure. Of course, we have already invested into our current infrastructure, so moving everything to cloud would mean also some additional costs. The next steps which I see we could proceed with, and this is already just moving along where we have started, is to continue separation our still quite monolithic application into more microservices which can then be independently managed. And in parallel we also are doing evaluations of different cloud platforms because they are very, very different. And then the more we have split our services into independent microservices, we can move them one by one to the cloud. And this means also that if certain services are not under a certain regulation required to comply, then even the less sensitive services can be moved without such big dependencies of regulation to the cloud. And one example of how to define how to separate your system into services, and even it only doesn't touch the just development or code structure, but also your work processes, is the 12-factor app principles, which have been defined by one of the early cloud platforms, Heroku, developers and like architects, and it's referred to also in many different talks about cloud. So it is considered like a best practices for services and service development teams and development processes to be cloud compliant. So I will not go into details of each of these steps, but just a useful material to look at. Basically, to summarize, Transferwise is quite a traditional startup. Of course, we try to be very, very active and innovative, and I think if you want to know more about how actually Transferwise is growing and what is the company culture, I also suggest to come to listen to Alvar, who is talking also at 140 in the agile and lean track about company culture and building the team. So I think it's quite unique how Transferwise is doing that. And internally we still move towards microservices more and more to support the growth. Because unless we grow, we will probably not be there in next few years, because there are always very fierce competitors who just try to do the same or get there faster than us. And this market only can support few very good companies doing that. So currently we are satisfied with our infrastructure which we have, and just looking around for the next possibilities, and there is no very clear road to cloud, but just step by step moving to the cloud. And we evaluate the next steps based on our company goals, which are also defined every quarter, so we will see. I will also be part of the next quarter planning, so I hope I can influence the process. So if you have any questions, I'm available here and also later by email if you want to ask something.
I have a question. How small are your microservices in terms of lines of code?
This is already a question which I cannot answer, because yeah, I have worked too few days in Transferwise, so I haven't really read through any microservices, but I would assume they are not too small, not too big. I don't know exactly. I know that the load is probably much lower than when compared to Playtech, because as far as I know, Transferwise officially says that we have processed 1 billion transactions, 1 billion user transferring money from one site to another. It's probably even more now. Alvar can correct me. This is the official sales number, and when I know also what happens in Playtech, then in Playtech there is 1 billion transactions processed per day, so it's quite a different scale. But this is also in Playtech across 50 different sites, so it's always a matter of how to look. Then I thank you.